First Samuel chapter 30. Introduction. During David's absence in Ziklag, the Amalekites raid his city. When David returns, he and his men are distressed to see the city laid waste. In this situation, God provides guidance to David by means of the priest and the ephod, directing them that they should pursue the raiders and rescue everything lost to them. In addition to this guidance, God providentially arranged for an Egyptian slave of an Amalekite master as a guide to direct them to the Amalekite campsite. David and his men fought against the Amalekites and restored their own goods back and also the goods of many others. David then shared this plunder with a number of Israelite towns. In this chapter, we have the following. 1. Plunder of Ziklag by the Amalekites, verses 1 to 6. 2. David rescues the lost from the Amalekites, verses 7 to 20. 3. The plunder was shared and relationships restored, verses 21 to 31. This chapter presents many qualities that mark strong and effective leadership. These include empathy, faith, decisiveness, kindness, persistence, integrity, fairness, and generosity. We can also see development in David's restraint as compared to his dealings with Nabal, chapter 25. David's effectiveness also contrasts with Saul's ineffectiveness as a leader. When Saul was in a deep crisis of leadership, he sought refuge in a medium, whereas when David was in a deep crisis of leadership, he inquired of the Lord. Ziklag is plundered by the Amalekites. On the third day indicates that David and his men covered about 25 miles a day on the march south from Aphek to Ziklag. While David and his men were in the north trying to join the Philistine army, their own city of Ziklag was unguarded. The Amalekites seized the opportunity of the defenseless state of Philistia to invade the southern territory of Negev and Ziklag. David and his men were the victims of this raid in which the Amalekites took all their wives and livestock captive before burning Ziklag, their city. There is a touch of the Lord's justice in all of this. David had to reap the consequences of 1. Saul's failure in completely destroying the Amalekites, 1 Samuel 15. 2. His recent raids upon the Amalekite territory, thus provoking the anger of the Amalekites, 1 Samuel 27:8. 3. David's indiscretion in leaving Ziklag unguarded. 1 Samuel 27:9 says, during his raid among the Philistines, whenever David attacked an area, he did not leave a man or woman alive. God inclined the hearts of the Amalekites to be more merciful than David was. They did not kill any of them. The women and the boys were reserved for slaves, and the old people were spared out of respect of age. David and his men come upon the burnt, empty city. Verses 3 to 5. The Hebrew language of this text tells that even off in the distance, David and his men saw smoke rising from their city, implying that the raiding was very recent. Their wives and sons and daughters were taken captive. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. Tears did not seem a sufficient expression for their sorrow. The very sources of tears were dried up by the exceeding heat of their grief. The mutiny and murmuring of David's men against him. Verse 6. David was greatly distressed, for in the midst of all his losses, his own men spoke of stoning him. We may remember that the Israelites did the same to Moses and Aaron. Numbers 14:10. David's men looked upon David as the reason of their calamities. Since David did not seek divine providence in chapter 27, he had to reap the distressing words of his men. There was no one to support David. The Philistines didn't want him. His own men turned against him. His family was gone. David was in distress, despair, and depression. He was like a prodigal son sitting in the pig pen. At this point, David turned to the Lord. He remembered God's love, God's promise and calling, and God's past deliverances. David found strength in the Lord his God. This was the key to David being a man after God's heart. 1 Samuel 13:14, Acts 13:22. His faith supplied him with inward resources of comfort and energy, and he became strong. His confidence on how God will take care of him and his situation increased. David inquires of the Lord, verses 7 and 8. A sense of humbling seemed to clothe David. Instead of starting to attack the Amalekites, David persisted in his trust towards God and waits patiently for God's response. David sought God with the help of Abiathar the priest, using the Urim and Thummim that were part of the priest's ephod. Exodus 28:15-30. It was a great advantage to David that he had the high priest with him and the breastplate of judgment to consult in all his affairs. Numbers 27:21. Verse 8. David inquired of the Lord, "Shall I pursue this raiding party? Will I overtake them?" God tells David, "Pursue them." He also gives a promise, "You will certainly overtake them and succeed in the rescue." When God gives us something to do, He also gives us a promise in the doing. David pursues the Amalekites who conquered Ziklag. Verses 9 and 10. David got a mission from God to pursue the Amalekites. He obeyed God, and now his men who wanted to stone him are totally back on his side. David's faith stirred the hearts of 600 men, and they went with David till the Besor Valley to do God's will. Besor Valley is about 13 miles south of Ziklag and a little to the south of Gath. It consists of seasonal rivers from the area of Beersheba, which ran northwest and emptied westward into the Mediterranean Sea. This bank of a stream offered a convenient rest to the 200 of David's soldiers who, through fatigue, were unable to continue the pursuit. But David didn't let this stop him. He set the 1/3 to guard the supplies, thus lightening the load of the 400 who continued their pursuit. David and his men showed care and kindness to the helpless Egyptian. Verses 11 to 13. As David and the 400 men pursued the Amalekites, they came across an Egyptian in a field. He was abandoned by his master when he became ill 3 days ago. It would be easy and logical to ignore this man because David and his men had a much greater mission in pursuing the Amalekites. But David and his men showed unexpected kindness, and they gave him water to drink and food to eat, part of a cake of pressed figs and 2 cakes of raisins. To his credit, David did not kill this Egyptian as he planned to kill Nabal earlier. Instead, he treated him kindly in contrast to the man's Amalekite master's treatment on him, and won his favor and cooperation. The Egyptian ate and was revived, for he had not eaten any food or drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights. Though this looks incidental, but it was all part of God's strategy. The Amalekite raid, verse 14. We raided the Negev of the Kerethites, some territory belonging to Judah, and the Negev of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag. The Ellicott's Bible commentary says that Kirathim was David's Philistine guard, chosen to guard his people from their neighboring enemies. The Kerethites inhabited the eastern portion of the land of the Philistines, and they lived by the coast. Zephaniah 2:5, Ezekiel 25:16. Negev of Caleb, around Hebron, is a large district in the south of Judah which was assigned to Caleb the Kenizzite, who with his clan had been incorporated into the tribe of Judah. Joshua 13:13-14, Joshua 21:11 and 12. This whole region given to Caleb continued to bear his name. So we see that the Amalekites had begun their raid on the east, where the Kerethites lived, and then swept the whole southern district of Judah before entering the country of the Philistines, where they burned Ziklag in the revenge of David's cruel treatment of them. The emphatic "we" in the beginning of verse 14 suggests that the slave participated personally in the Amalekite raids. The Egyptian pays off for his cruelty by the Amalekites. Verse 15. Swear to me before God. God means Elohim, not Jehovah, of whom the Egyptian knew nothing. This Egyptian wished to bind David by the God whom the Hebrews worshipped. He knew that an oath taken by Elohim was solemn, sacred, and inviolable, and might be trusted to and depended on. The solemn sanction of an oath was mutually recognized. Upon getting a guarantee of safety from David, the Egyptian told David the whole story of the invasion of Judah and Philistia. He also agreed to lead David and his men to the Amalekite camp. David routs and spoils the Amalekites, winning everything back. Verses 16-20. David fought the Amalekites while they were celebrating the victory of their plunder from the land of the Philistines and from Judah. At this point, they were least able to defend themselves. They were not ready to face David and his men. David's men fought well all through the night until evening of the second day and recovered everything just as God promised. However, 400 young men rode off on camels and fled. This was equal to David's own force. So the number of slain on this occasion must have been very great. Verse 19. Nothing was missing. Everything that the enemy took, David took back. This was a grand miracle. Only God could have done this. God gave David a complete victory because 1. David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. Verse 6. 2. David inquired of the Lord. Verse 8. 3. David did what God told him to do. And 4. David showed unexpected care and kindness to others. God gave David even more than what he promised. He received spoil from the battle beyond what was taken from Ziklag. This was the grace of God. The men who were thinking of stoning David now, upon this success, magnify him and triumphantly celebrate his praise and say concerning this spoil, "This is David's plunder." The spoils are distributed equally among those who fought and those who supported. Verses 21-25. This unexpected accession of spoil was nearly proving an occasion of quarrel through the selfish cupidity of some of David's followers. The 400 did not want to share the plunder with the 200. So, David takes the initiative in dealing with their demands and handles them very well. In verse 23, David attributes their real deliverance to God by saying, 1. The Lord has given us the plunder. 2. The Lord has protected us from death in war. 3. The Lord has delivered the company of Amalekites into our hands. David saw this victory as a victory from the Lord, not his own. He shows his gratitude to God. He also shows justice to the fatigued 200 that they ought not to suffer for it. He refuses to allow the troublemakers to have their way and showed them why they are wrong in what they demanded. So, David insisted on rewarding equally those out on the front lines and those staying back at the camp. The battle is a team effort with each member playing a different role. The 200 men who stayed back with the baggage also contributed to the victory. Their victory is a collective victory, and so every man should have an equal share of the spoils. David's wisdom and prudence in dealing with his men's jealousy is a concrete example of his remarkable leadership skills. David dealt with greed among the people very well, in contrast to Saul, who refused to rebuke the people's greed. 1 Samuel 15:19. In spite of the opposition David received from the evil men among him, he legislated his practice of kindness and equity into law for the people. This is a good military strategy because it builds loyalty and unity. This became a statute and ordinance for Israel from that day to this, the equitable rule that all the soldiers should share alike. This was directed by the Lord in the war of Midian, Numbers 31:25-27, and was practiced in the times of Abraham, Genesis 14:24. David mends strained relationships, verses 26-31. David knew that his time among the Philistines strained his relationship with God's people. Now he knew he must do whatever he could to put things right again. He showed his generosity and gratitude by sharing the plunder with the 13 Israelite towns that he and his men frequented. He showed his thoughtfulness to those men who were kind to him during his wanderings while being pursued by Saul. David cleverly distributed some of the war plunder to the elders of Judah, thus mending their strained relationships. He also renewed and initiated new friendly relationships which he retained and cherished long afterwards as a king when he was a fugitive. These recipients of David's generosity were the first to embrace David as their king. The effect of this well-timed liberality increased David's army, which was so great like the army of God. 1 Chronicles 12:22. The amount of space the writer devoted to David's generosity shows that he intended to stress it. When God gives us blessings, His people should view them as God's gift to us. We should share them with our fellow spiritual warriors and with our fellow spiritual citizens with fairness and liberality. Hebrews 13:16, Romans 12:13, Galatians 6:10. Obviously, they were spoiled to share from the battle. In this narrative, David is a picture of his greater son, Jesus Christ. When Jesus triumphed on the cross, he won the greatest battle and he had spoils to share. He shared the spoil with his people, as it says in Ephesians 4:7-8. But to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. That is why it says, when he ascended on high, he took many captives and gave gifts to his people. God owns all things, and he gives us according to the infinite and matchless measure of Christ's gift of salvation to us. We are partakers of the spoil from Jesus' victory on the cross. 1 Samuel chapter 30. Questions. First Samuel chapter 30. Answers.